please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to The Weekender at CNBC TV18. I'm Manisha Gupta. Well, India is the second largest producer of tea in the world, and 70% of what we produce, India consumes in itself. This year, of course, has been quite positive because India has seen all-time high production and record high exports as well. So clearly, it is tea that we are talking about. And joining us on The Weekender is Karan Shah. He is the fourth generation at Society Tea in the family business. Karan also has done business administration with international marketing at Kent University. Karan also holds a degree in the music production from SAE, London. Thank you so much, Karan, for joining us for this Weekender. And what an year it has been for tea as an industry, especially for Indian markets, where you have seen an all-time high production, all-time high exports as well. What really has led to that?
I believe the government's helped the smaller producers. These are people with 5 hectares, 7 hectares of land. So this is the kind of tea that's called bought leaf. So they've aided these producers, so to say, to go and sell their produce, however small it may be, to larger gardens. So that's kind of raised the quantum quite a bit. The fact is that the leaf deteriorates as soon as it's plucked out. So it's very essential that the processing is done immediately after or as soon as it can be. Okay. And the government really aided the facilitation of this process.
So would you say that much of this quantum really has come in from the smaller producers and not from the large companies perhaps?
I think the overall number could have been very well affected by the fact that these bought leaf numbers are added to the spectrum.
All right. So Karan, when you say that, are you saying that all perhaps the government's reforms or strategies have worked well for the tea industry in India?
I believe so, yes, it has. It has. I think the fact that the smaller producers getting the incentives and the help from the government, the percentage increase could have possibly come from there as well, and the fact that it's been a good crop.
You know, for the longest time, it wasn't a lot of, I remember tea industries coming out and saying that the remunerations perhaps have been low, the cost of production has been on the higher side, but we have seen that improving as well. So would you say that achhe din for tea industry are finally here?
Well, I believe it's not the worst of times. Okay. But I'm sure it could, I'm sure we can see better days as well. I don't want to say that we're one of those people that will settle ourselves and be happy where we are.
All right.
I think we can do better. I think we can do better as an industry, and I think it's looking quite rosy from the way up. It is. Yes.
Tell us more about Society Tea to begin with. Sure. I mean, you've been in an industry, or you've been a name that has been around for the longest time.
We have, yes.
Tell us when it began, where it began, and who actually started it.
Okay. So it was my great grandfather that started it. I'm the 4th generation, along with my brothers. We're actually almost 100 years into the tea business. Hasmukh & Company was formed in 1933 when we started the retail tea trade, which is where you'd go to a shop and you tailor make a cup of tea, which is, according to me, the best way to do it, and I see that coming back majorly. But this is when the consumer knew what exactly they wanted. They'd go to a store and they'll tailor make a blend based on their preferences, and that was the trend of purchase. I think that changed, so to say, in 27 years ago. When Society Tea was born, the consumer wanted a different shopping experience. They wanted to go to a show and they wanted to feel that retail experience where they'll trust a brand to give them that quality and decide for themselves.
So why the name Society Tea then? What brought about that branding?
It was just a panel discussion that brought there's no interesting story. I'll be making it up.
Try me on that. But you know, also tell us about how the industry itself has changed, because tea when it started really was in a loose form. I believe that is how it goes around in some parts of India.
Yes,
but there are some areas which really go for the branded and specialty teas.
True. In fact, that was the time when Society Tea was born as well, which is 27 years ago, when people wanted a shopping experience. So they'd like to go to a place and kind of experience the brand selecting a particular quality for them. And I think that's prevalent, except for the fact that now you have the online advent as well.
Yes.
So that's the one major change that's happened after Society's inception. But yes.
So, you know, historically and culturally, while tea is much deep-rooted in India as in sense of culture there, would you also say that, you know, as we've gone past the year, the tea industry is quite technologically evolved now? What really is the technology that you look at, the automation, because that really seems to be changing the face of each industry. How is tea looking into that?
I think that's a very good question, and I think I am very happy to say that us as a company, we're taking on automation very seriously. Also with the advent of the changes in FSSAI health, we're looking at, we're very conscious as a country now. India is very quick to change, I believe. You know, we at one stage we don't look at quality at all. We always have, but and all of a sudden we'll be all on the bandwagon of making sure that the consumer gets a very, very, very conscious cup. We're looking at automation very seriously. We're looking at quality control very seriously. In fact, our new production plant is possibly one of the best in the country as of now. Well, I would like to talk to you about it.
Sure, tell us about it. So where is it coming up and what are you looking forward to?
I can't mention that just yet because it's not ready, but it's 6 months down the line that we'll have a state-of-the-art plant with heavy automation than most people have at this stage.
So how will that change society tea from where it is now to that?
No, it just means that society tea will be produced at a lot more efficient rate than it is right now. We're doing a lot of overtimes, that will stop. We can now get society to a lot more states, so a lot more people will be able to enjoy the quality that we bring to Maharashtra and the other states as of now.
You know, tell us also about what the Indian preferences are right now. Is India still, as we like to call it, a very price sensitive country, or are people paying a premium or willing to pay a premium if they get better quality? We
as a consumer, we are so complicated. We would pay a premium. I think the fact is that as time has progressed, the generation, the millennials, have been known to pay a certain price more than their predecessors for quality. But when it comes to tea, I think it's a little tricky. You know, no matter how much you spend on a meal, you'll still be very conscious about the cup of tea that you purchase.
You know, also for the longest time, it has been about the mom and dad, middle-aged perhaps, or middle class kind of a drink, because there was so much other available. But now do you see it changing a lot, because
we're
the younger population,
on the fact that it changes very much so. We have a lot of time and effort invested into tomorrow's consumer. We have a beautiful iced tea coming out in the market. There's the instant iced teas that are completely in the market as we speak now, but also our instant teas. So what we've done is we've gone and we set up a plant to get in. So we're manufacturing dairy. So we're processing milk to get dairy whiteners. We're doing excellent ghee, by the way. This is all because that we're doing this instant tea, and dairy constitutes a large set of the mix, and it actually by the end it decides on how the cup will be. We're also producing our own instant teas. So everything is in-house. It's a turnkey project, and we control how your final cup is. And all of this was backtracked from my grandmom's cup of tea at home. So we've sat and we've taken a list of all the ingredients she puts in, and we've tried to make it as efficient as possible.
So when it comes to tea preferences or choices, as we were talking earlier, for Maharashtra drinks it's tea very different to what Delhi does, to what Gujarat does perhaps. So are you catering to all of those markets?
As a stereotype, I'd say Maharashtra loves this ginger tea with a bit of lemongrass. Gujaratis, we love it all. So we blend every known spice there is, but we do it right. I quite like it.
Masala tea.
Masala tea is what we're talking about. The north likes its elaichi, possibly because of the region, possibly because of the temperature. As you go up north, it changes. There's a lot of saffron involved. But that's also, if I can say, this is one of the reasons where we're celebrating the tea society. That's India. You know, the new campaign is called For the Tea Society called India.
And it has got quite an eyeball. I mean, eyeballs. I was actually coming to that in my next question. What really led to that campaign? And so it's done well, and it's got you some awards there.
Well, 5th award, and I believe there's 2 more on the way. So we're quite excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So, you know, how important is campaigning, marketing, advertising taking it out to the consumers in that sense? What really led to that, and is it a revenue generation at the end of it?
So obviously not taking away from the fact that quality consciousness is the most important thing. That's not enough in my eyes to win you a place or a helm at the top. Marketing is very important, communication is very important. So the consumer deserves to know how the company thinks. You know, the consumer deserves to be treated as the most important thing there is. And I believe communication and marketing are the only ways where you can kind of communicate your values, your ethos over to them. And it shares a place right on top with quality. So marketing and quality go hand in hand. You can't it's a blend. I think it's a blend of both.
So, well, of course, you are celebrating your campaign right now, but give me in a pecking order on how would you put it? Is it letting the competition know that you're in the market? Is it also about creating awareness? Is it sensitizing your consumers out there, or is it clearly about telling them on how different you are from others?
So it's a two-part campaign. We've sent out a video team for 6 months across the country to shoot these beautiful nuances that celebrate tea drinking. They're we're romanticizing everyday tea drinking, if I can say so myself. We've done the same with our photography team. We've sent out a couple of photographers, very revered photographers, if I may add, through the length and breadth of the country to capture these moments. And it's a photo essay. This isn't a print campaign for us. It's a photo essay. It's a labor of love. We've put in our heart and soul into it. And
each picture tells its own stories.
It does. It does.
All right, Karan, hold that thought. With that, we will take a short tea break, come back and resume our conversation on a cup of tea. Welcome back, and we still have with us Karan Shah of Society Tea. Karan, and thank you so much for that cup of
Most
tea.
welcome.
Tell us, there is this whole array of teas now entering the Indian market. While of course there is enough competition in the Indian markets itself, with the international people also coming in, how is the whole market looking now? So,
what's happened is there are a lot of international products, and the consumer today is very experimental. You do want to try the green teas. There are a lot of interesting teas that I buy sometimes as well, just to see what's out there in the market. So it has made a difference, but just means that we have to be on our toes, like I said.
You know, you did say that there are no exact numbers when you look at the tea industry, yes. But when you look at the traditional teas, cup tea, and then of course the herbal teas, yes. And the brews, and of course the green teas, and it's just non-ending really. So how would you say what has a very steady market, what really is increasing its share, what is going down? Is there a trend really to follow?
Okay, may I kind of quickly explain to you how it works as well? So once the tea leaf is plucked up, so once it's withered, which is where it's just laden with moisture, the drying process will determine what the tea is finally made into. So it's passed through heat. The least heat which is passed will make the tea white. Furthermore, heat will give it a green texture. And then you have the black. So it's basically the same leaf that's treated to make these three variants.
And then of course the next step would be certification. So what you're saying, Karan, is that right from what estate it comes from and the quality of the leaf to processing, and then of course explain to us certification part of it.
Oh, certification for tea brands is through the tea board. For example, the only time it would change is for when I spoke about our premix teas, the 1-minute teas. The 1-minute teas would require a proprietary license, which is through the FSSAI, which I'll just say is a lot easier than it used to be before.
Okay. And tell us about the exports part of it. You told us earlier that what is exported is usually the branded tea. So would you say that much of the unbranded tea then gets consumed into the Indian markets only?
It's actually the other way around. The unbranded teas are exported as the largest part of our quantum, and it's usually to Eastern Europe, where Assam tea is the largest part of our exports, and it's usually the unbranded teas that go across, but also we consume a lot of our teas. I'd say more than 75% of the teas are consumed internally. Now you have Kenya that's also exporting, and the Kenyan teas are a lot similar to our Indian teas in terms of body and all sorts. So it's a very similar tea to our Indian tea, and their per capita consumption is a lot lower. So you have that affecting the market as well in terms of exports. Recently, exports have been at an all-time high because of the price fluctuation between Kenya and Sri Lanka. So we've seen an increase in exports in the recent times.
When it comes to geographies, how have you seen? Is there a particular state which consume more than the other one?
There will be certain areas that will consume, certain states that will consume a little more than the next. So while Maharashtra is a large consumer of tea, so is Gujarat. But I was so surprised. I was doing a market study in Chennai, which I thought was a very big consumer of coffee. It's 50% consumption of tea in that market, which is quite surprising. So the South also consumes tea a lot.
Let's talk about society tea. You said you were foraying into other things. Dairy is something that you already seem to be taking on board now. Is the name changing from society tea to something else, or are you going to go with that? Society
stays, but it depends. So we're getting into pickles and chutneys as well. So we probably not use the society name for that, but it will be somewhere in the foray.
Karan, let's also talk about yourself now. I mean, what was it like always decided that you would join the family business, and is that how you studied?
I actually, I just went with the flow, but there was a passion that I took on very seriously. I used to produce music a lot more than I do now, but yes, that's definitely something that I saw as a very serious passion of mine. It's taken a bit of a backseat, but I will definitely get back to it sometime.
So if Karan wasn't brewing teas, he would be producing music?
Hopefully, yes. Karan would be happier doing that as well. But tea is in my blood.
Well, okay, that's two of my favorite things. Music and tea is what we are talking about. But we have to talk much more about the forward-looking plans with Karan after this very short break. Welcome back, and we still have with us Karan Shah, Society Tea. Karan, you spoke about music and how that perhaps could have been an alternate career for you. But since you still are pursuing it, tell us on how, is it a revenue generation for you or for Society Tea, or is it still a passion that you're pursuing here?
Manisha, I can promise you it's a very strategic thing that we're into with our property that's called Sounds of Society. What we're doing is we're catering to tomorrow's consumer and connecting with them via a very interesting, very organic property, and it's very close to our hearts. What we've done is we're taking musicians from different walks of life. We're keeping it very straightforward. We're just putting them together, and we're making really good music. And once it's ready, I would like to send you some links. But the second season is in works right now. The first season, we only got around to doing 6 episodes, which is why we haven't spoken about it too much. But the plans are really big, getting into second season. And that's when we'll have a lot more to talk about.
Okay, you know what? Let's try to get to know you better. Your favorite vacation destination, all by yourself, or is it going to be a crowded place?
I would love to be all by myself. It'll be Dharamsala if it's India, and I do follow a couple of music festivals every year. So if it's abroad, it's totally done around the festival.
Favorite musician?
I love my rock. I love my ambient.
A person you look up to?
Has to be my father.
One favorite movie that you perhaps would go back to again and again?
Snatch. It has to be Snatch. I just watched it last night.
Education or experience?
Experience.
What's your sense on the startups?
I believe if done right, it's the best way to go.
Disruptive or tried and
Always
tested?
Disruptive. Always disruptive. It's the only way to go.
So if you had money, where would you want to invest it right now?
I believe food is an area that needs a lot more attention than it has. I think it's getting a lot of attention anyway. We're investing in QSR as well. So food.
Opportunities here in India, or you see them more someplace out?
Hands down India.
You told us earlier that there has never been an instance or a reason for you to raise money from outside. What is the secret there?
It's just to keep growth steady. It's not to bite more than you can chew. It's just the fact that it's been an ethos of the family to grow slow but steady. It's just that's what we've been taught, and that's what we've been told, so to say.
Is there any plan of that sort as you go forward, or is it going to be a family-held business?
Let's watch how it goes. You and me both. We'll have to watch how it goes.
Where does Karan Shah see himself 5 years from now?
I've been asking myself this a lot. I quite don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
And we'll be back with you, Karan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And
thank you so much.
For your time.
Lovely conversation.